using VPN software doesn't necessarily mean you're secure.
Hey John, you had a good story about Homeland Security advising about enterprise VPN flaws. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Sure. Homeland Security released a bulletin recently. I want to say it was last week, maybe. They identified in several different vendors VPN applications mainly for getting into enterprise VPN type situations, that there's some possibility of session replay attacks. Depending on how you have your setup configured. In some cases, if they have password or static token authentication, they might actually leave some kind of session cookies or other metadata on the machine that could be harvested and for a replay attack by an attacker. Now, for this to work, the attacker would have to have gained access to the endpoint device, right?
And also to the cookies, right?
Right, but I'm saying, if they got malware on the machine and had some kind of remote access Trojan, they could harvest those cookies off the machine and then from another machine go log in over VPN. So most of the vendors, they're addressing it in different respects. Some have mentioned that, well, what we'd really recommend you do is go to like a secure ID token, or a one-time PIN type scheme, because that's a lot more secure. It's not going to be replayable even if it was stored on the machine.
By the time you replay it, it will have expired.
Right, because most of those tokens only last for 30 seconds or a minute maybe at most. So that's basically, and I think most enterprises probably are doing that type of thing, either with a token like a secure ID token or a one-time PIN that's sent to a mobile device or something like that to log in with. So I guess I would advise people to, if you're in the IT groups or security, check out if your vendor is listed in here as having some vulnerability or maybe patches available to make sure that your VPN networks are secure. We know, because we've seen, over the past couple of years, probably for a long time, but there's been a lot more activity around bad actors trying to get into enterprise networks via their VPN access. So I would say it's a good thing to raise some awareness about and people to look at.
The one thing that I noticed as you were presenting on this is that it wasn't just one supplier, it was all of them, which is interesting.
Right.
It wasn't just in one specific implementation or one supplier's version, it was kind of widespread. It's a security solution, so whenever there's a weakness in a security solution, that's always something you want to hop right on.
Anyway, I just thought it was an important thing to kind of raise some awareness around, because most large organizations have VPN access into their enterprise, and they're probably using one of these products to do it. So
I think the thinking might be allow the users not to log in multiple times. That's the reason probably they want to store a little bit of nuggets on the computers itself. Maybe that was the design all these vendors have actually incorporated into their designing, right? For example, when you have the token information, they're trying to store it locally. That's the part they're trying to actually use it for the replay attacks, right?
Right, but it's not even, it's password tokens really, tokens that don't change.
Yeah.
And I guess some vendors may log it to a file or somehow have a session cookie that you could harvest and plug in to,
so that they know the user session and they don't want to ask the user to log in multiple times.
Right, good, right. So it might also be a convenience thing, right, for the user. So I don't know why I would advise against allowing a user to check, save my password so I don't have to type it in every time to log into VPN. Maybe that's okay for these public VPN services that get you to the internet, but for something to get into your enterprise. I would highly discourage that.
Yeah.
So, right.
I agree.
But I mean, that could be part of it too. I think they did mention that at least one or two of the vendors might have had that as an option.
Gotcha.
That would allow this type of thing to happen. So, good point. Most of the vendors highly recommend that people use some sort of secure ID authentication, a token authentication. That would help mitigate from password-based attacks where it might cache a credential locally on the machine or something of that nature.